My name is Miriam. I am 27 years old. The events of this story began on March 18th, 2019, a day that looked ordinary from the outside, but quietly became the beginning of everything I would lose and everything I would become. On that day, something shifted inside me. I did not yet understand it fully, but I knew my life would never return to the way it was. I was born an Arab woman into a wealthy and respected family. Many people saw my life as perfect. My father was a powerful man with influence, connections, and honor in our community. My family name opened doors. Our home was large, guarded, and admired. From the outside, I lived a life many dreamed of, but inside that life, I lived under strict control. I was raised in a home where obedience mattered more than feelings. Questions were not welcomed. Silence was praised. I was taught what to wear, how to walk, how to speak, and when to remain quiet. From a young age, I learned that a woman's safety depended on her compliance. Education was important in my family, but only within limits. I attended private schools and later studied international relations because my father believed it suited our status. I did well in school, not because I loved it, but because success was expected. Failure was not an option. My daily life followed a pattern. I woke early, I followed rules, I smiled when guests came, I hid my thoughts. I lived under constant watching, drivers, guards, relatives, and neighbors. Privacy did not exist. Freedom was a word I heard but never touched. Even as a child, I felt a quiet fear I could not name. I learned early that love in my world was conditional. When I obeyed, I was praised. When I questioned, I was corrected. When I doubted, I was warned. As I grew older, that fear deepened. I saw what happened to others who stepped out of line. I watched a distant cousin disappear after refusing an arranged marriage. I was told she brought shame. I later learned she was sent away and never allowed to return. No one spoke her name again. I saw neighbors beaten for rumors. I saw women locked indoors for months. I heard stories of honor, punishment, and silence. These were not rumors to scare children. These were lessons. By the time I was a teenager, I understood one truth very clearly. Choice had consequences, and for women like me, those consequences could destroy everything. Still, deep inside, I felt empty.
Despite the comfort, the money, and the education, I felt unseen. I felt like I was living a life written by others. At night, I cried quietly so no one would hear. I asked questions in my heart that I was never allowed to speak. That is why what happened on March 18th, 2019 mattered. It was the first time I felt that someone saw me beyond my family name, beyond my obedience, beyond my fear. It was the first crack in a wall that had been built around my life since birth. I did not yet know that this crack would lead to persecution, rejection, and pain I would never forget. I did not know that choosing truth would cost me my home, my protection, and my identity. But the journey had begun, and once it began, there was no turning back.
I began to notice change in small moments. It started in my room, late at night when the house was quiet. I would sit on my bed, holding thoughts I could not share with anyone. I felt a pull inside me, something gentle but strong. I did not have words for it yet, but it felt like light pressing against a locked door. One evening, a woman who worked in our home noticed my sadness. She looked at me longer than usual and later came close to me when no one was watching. She told me about hope, about peace, about a love that did not punish questions. She revealed to me that faith could be personal, not forced. She showed me kindness without fear. Those moments changed me. I began to read secretly. I hid papers under my mattress. I listened carefully when others spoke. I prayed silently, afraid of being heard. My heart felt alive for the first time, but my body lived in fear. Soon, people began to notice. My mother watched me more closely. She told me I was becoming distant. My brother warned me to be careful, showing me with his eyes that danger was near. The guards followed me everywhere. Doors closed faster. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Then the persecution began. It started with control. My phone was taken. My movements were limited. I was no longer allowed to leave the house alone. I was told this was for my protection, but I knew it was punishment. I was watched even while eating. I slept with fear because I never knew who was listening. Next came isolation. Friends stopped visiting. My name was no longer spoken kindly. I was kept indoors for days, then weeks. Meals were left at my door. When I tried to speak, people turned away. Silence became a weapon used against me. Then came threats. My father was called by community leaders. They told me I was bringing shame. They warned me of consequences. He came home angry and cold. He showed me with his actions that love had conditions. I was told my future would be destroyed if I continued. One night, I was taken into a room and surrounded by family members. They told me I was sick in my mind. They told me I was being influenced by evil. They said discipline would fix me. I was not beaten that night, but fear was placed deep inside me. Later, the punishment became physical. I was pushed. I was locked inside a room for hours without light. My arms were held tightly when I tried to leave. Pain was used to teach obedience. I cried quietly because loud crying only made things worse. What hurt most was not the pain, it was rejection. My mother avoided my eyes. My childhood memories felt like lies. The home that once felt safe became a prison. I realized that choosing truth meant losing belonging. Every day I asked myself if it was worth it. I was tired. I was afraid. I felt weak. I was tired. I was afraid. I felt weak. But in the middle of that suffering, something strange happened. Even while being punished, I felt peace inside my heart. I felt seen. I felt held in a way no human could offer. I remembered the kindness shown to me, the hope revealed to me, and the love I had discovered. That love did not remove my pain, but it gave me strength to endure it. By the end of that season, I understood something clearly. The cost of my decision would be high, and the persecution would only grow stronger. Yet, even as everything was taken from me, something greater was being built inside me, and I was no longer the same girl I had been before. By this time, I was no longer confused about what was happening to me. I knew I was being watched closely. Every step I took was measured. Every breath felt borrowed. I lived with the constant fear that any mistake could cost me my life. Sleep became difficult. When I closed my eyes, my heart raced, expecting someone to open my door. One night, after another long day of silence and fear, I sat alone on the floor of my room. The lights were off, the window was closed, my hands were shaking. I felt weak, empty, and broken. I reached a point where I felt I could not survive another day like this. In that moment, something happened that I cannot forget. I felt a strong sense of peace surround me, even though nothing around me had changed. I felt comfort where there should have been fear. I felt strength where I had only known weakness. It was as if someone unseen was near me, calming my heart. I did not hear a voice, but understanding filled my mind. I felt shown that I was not alone. I felt revealed to me that my suffering was seen. I felt guided to believe that love could exist even in persecution. That moment gave me courage. But courage came with consequences. A few days later, my family discovered evidence of my inner change. They did not need proof in words, they saw it in my eyes. The anger that followed was intense. My father was told by religious leaders that I was a danger to the family's honor. They revealed to him that strict action was required. That night, I was dragged from my room. My hands were held tightly. My body was pushed forward. I was taken to a place where no one could hear me cry. I was told I would be corrected. I was threatened with being disowned, locked away, or worse. They showed me fear in its rawest form. I was struck. I was shaken. I was forced to kneel for long periods until my body ached. Water was withheld. Food was delayed. These acts were meant to break my will. They told me my choice had made me an enemy. What hurt me deeply was how familiar faces became strangers. People who once protected me now watched without mercy. No one defended me. No one spoke for me. The persecution was not only physical, it was emotional. I was told I was no longer their daughter in spirit. I was reminded daily that I had lost my value. I was made to feel small, dirty, and dangerous. Shame was placed on me like a heavy weight. Still, inside my heart, something refused to die. Even when my body was weak, my faith grew stronger. I felt shown again and again that love does not abandon those who suffer for truth. I felt guided to endure. I felt protected in a way that went beyond walls and guards. There were nights I cried until my chest hurt. There were moments I wished for escape. But there was also a deep peace that made no sense. By the end of this chapter of my life, I knew one thing clearly. I could no longer remain where I was. Staying meant death of the soul, if not the body. The encounter I had experienced had changed me forever, and the path ahead, though dangerous, was the only path left for me to walk. The cost was high, but turning back was no longer possible. By the time this chapter began, I was no longer safe in my own home. I could feel it in the air. The house felt heavier. Doors closed louder. Eyes followed me everywhere. I woke each morning unsure if I would still be there by nightfall. My body moved, but my heart stayed alert, always ready for danger. One evening, a family member came to me quietly. He showed me with his actions that time was running out. He revealed to me that plans were being made to remove me completely. He did not need to explain everything. His fear explained it for him. That night I did not sleep. I packed nothing but my fear and my faith. My hands shook as I waited. Every sound made my heart race. When the moment came, I left without looking back. I walked away from my home, my family, my name, and the life I had always known. The persecution did not end when I left. It followed me. I hid in unfamiliar places. I moved from room to room, never staying long. I avoided windows. I kept my head down in public. I lived like someone being hunted. Hunger became normal. Fear became constant. There were days I had no food. There were nights I slept on hard floors. There were moments I thought I would be found and dragged back. I was told through others that my family had disowned me. They told people I no longer existed. My name was removed from records. My past was erased. It felt like I had died while still breathing. The pain of rejection cut deep. I missed my mother, even though she turned away from me. I missed my childhood, even though it was full of fear. I missed belonging. Loneliness became my closest companion. At times, my body felt weak. My mind felt tired. I cried silently so no one would hear. I asked myself if freedom was worth this much pain. But even in hiding, I was not alone. I felt guided in small ways. Help came when I needed it most. Strength appeared when I had none left. I was shown again and again that my life still had meaning. Slowly, I began to understand my purpose. My story was not just about escape. It was about survival. It was about standing for truth when truth brings suffering. It was about being a voice for those who cannot speak. Today, I live with scars, some visible, some hidden. I live without my old name, but with a new identity. I lost my past, but I gained a future. Persecution tried to destroy me. It did not succeed. If you are reading this and you are suffering because of your faith, please know this: you are not forgotten. Your pain matters. Your courage matters. Your life matters. I ask Christians all over the world to pray for those who are persecuted for their faith, for strength, protection, and hope. Pray for those who are hiding, those who are imprisoned, and those who have lost their families because they chose truth. And if you are reading this and you desire a new beginning, you can pray simply, even where you are now. Ask God to forgive your sins. Ask Him to come into your heart. Ask Him to guide your life. Choose to turn away from sin and walk toward truth. He sees you. He hears you. He will not abandon you. My journey from privilege to purpose was painful, but it was worth everything. And the story does not end here.